Hello and welcome to the Willington Board of Education Special Meeting Budget Workshop number 4. It is February 11th, 2025. We are calling the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. You're welcome to join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nobody except us. Okay, great. Moving forward. Okay, so we're here this evening talking about a specific program, but kind of as like our wrap up overall of the whole review we've been doing for the past 3 workshops. And what do we have that's new and going on? You have some updates for us.
Yeah, so and some of these are literally hot off the press today. So we already had printed your materials. And I got a phone call this afternoon and we are finalizing insurance. So we get to this. So you got a second page today. And now we're in blue. So I reprinted program 10 and reprinted the overall. So we ended up yesterday meeting for insurance. We were not to exceed the 5. They offered us a lower rate if we went dental as well. Through Anthem, and that's who we're working with right now. And the broker took it back to them and said, if you get lower, we'll consider it. And so they came back today. She called me this afternoon, and they're at 0 for both. So no increase off of our January 2024 number, which is actually higher because of our census. So we see some tremendous savings. So I mean, I think we're over $200,000 in savings right now in health insurance, which is great. It's not a number you typically see go down. So that brings you down to a 443% increase. And if you look at the program 10, which is the back of the other document that you just got there. Sorry for making you dizzy here. These are the changes. So I mean, we're down 100, over 100,000 in insurance on medical. Dental came down a little bit as well from last year, which is great. And so you see the changes there. So that's the blue is like the hot off the press. All right. So if we gave you a clean copy of everything, and so that's to be added. When you go through your documents and just think about the changes that have happened since I first presented my first day. The changes are really like, it goes green, orange, pink, blue. So anywhere you see the colors, that's really where the changes are. And the only other change I think, and I shared this out with you, I've already, was I did miss the Power School in program 9. So this 3323 did need to be there. That is their hosting. We had missed that. It was just a hidden row. And so we put that back in. So overall, those are the changes that we have. Do you have any questions about any of the changes that are in there? I'm glad to go program by program if you want, but you should have all of them in front of you now.
I think. Can we just do like a quick go through?
Yep,
So
sure.
that if people are
So
catch up there with us.
I can fly through them. So program 1, center school, there was just some changes from 24, 25. We adjusted those. That might not even be in your document from today because that was late. Donna gave that to me. Doesn't impact this year though. So overall, change, there's really minimal change in program 1, still that 4% increase. Program 2, Hall School, basically the same thing. There's no changes in that program. Again, the majority of the increases here are around staffing. In contract negotiations. In program 3, you remember we adjusted the paraprofessional line. So that's adjusted in there. You have your new total. We adjusted the school choice cost. We had to increase from the initial proposal, the BCBA, the behavioral consultant line. And that's the one that also now includes the connection to
The assistant
the
tech.
assistive tech, thank you. Wasn't coming to my brain right away. The thing that is a little quirky right now, and you're gonna see this in your next meeting tonight, that we have the offset in here for, and this is a little bit of a wild card. We have the offset of what we have in here for excess cost, and we calculated excess cost, I think it's 70%.
Yeah.
Our current excess cost for this year right now is 64%. As of today, that's what we were told we're getting. That number could change some in the next go around, but that's what we are told. So I'm hoping in next year's, in the governor's budget, that there's more money there. They do have more money in there. It's still not enough to cover what districts are put forward. So I'm hoping that we're back in that 70%. This would be the lowest year in the history that we saw. Actually, I think you gave to me, right? Or
Yeah.
Donna gave to me,
Yeah.
somebody gave to me, and I mean, we've seen 80, 85, 75 for years, 6, 8, 10 years here. 64 would be the lowest we've seen in all of those years. The majority of the other years are 70% and higher. So I still feel confident that the number we have in here for excess cost is okay. And remember, that can always change too, depending on placements. Somebody moves in, a placement changes with a different, different cost. All of those, there's a lot of variables in there. So we still are okay, in my opinion, at 70%. Transportation, no changes that are in there. One thing that we are monitoring, and this came up in conversation today. Marcia is our homeless liaison, if you don't know. And when we have a student who's identified homeless, we have to pay their transportation when we're bringing them in from somewhere. There's no line in your budget to cover that. This year, we're covering it, and we've done this each year. We've covered it by different spots, but we're kind of watching it now because it's becoming a regular thing. Kind of like when we saw the long-term sub become a regular thing, we added money in for a long-term sub. This is something that we're gonna watch, and this might be something that we have to add next year. Donna added a line in our budget, not in this, in our, a line in our budget documents, that in our spreadsheets of what we keep. It's just doesn't have any money in it this year. We're drawing off of it, but we're gonna watch it because, I mean, it can rack up pretty quick. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's no grant funding. We don't,
Yeah.
there's nothing that's tied to that. We're getting money back. So if we're bringing somebody in from, Manchester as an example, I'm making that up. That would be, there's a cost to that every single day.
Now, if we're bringing them in from there, why do we cover it versus the different district?
So you want to explain that?
So we are required to split cost.
Mhm.
If one of our students is considered homeless and they are in a different town, we have to share that cost with the town that they live in. But in addition, if we have a student come in from a different district, and they have to be transported to their district, we have to share that cost also. So it's typically a 50-50 cost.
The McKinney-Vento Act, it's federal, it's what we have to follow, and it's just.
Yeah, and we're getting rates that are the same as our outplacement rates.
So how do you determine who's a district student? So,
Yeah, so if it's one of our students who was currently or residing in Willington, attending one of our schools, they become homeless and they have to go into a shelter in Manchester or wherever, maybe doubling up with a family member in Wyndham. They're still our student. We are required to make sure that they can receive their current education. typically in their hometown. So we are required to provide that transportation.
Until when? So for example, if a student in our district becomes homeless and they end up going with a relative in another town.
Mhm.
When do they establish residency in that town?
Yeah, so
Very gray.
it is very gray. It is. A student can be considered homeless for the remainder of the school year, whether their homeless status continues to the end of the school year, whether they find a permanent residence or not. Typically, you reassess at the end of the school year. So if a student is still considered homeless, I would be calling, kind of reassessing their situation. That homeless status can extend into the next school year. But if it's going to be a long-term permanent placement, then they would go and enroll in the district that they're living in. So it is very tricky, and it really has to do with having a conversation with the family and to determine kind of what their status is. It's gonna extend. It could extend for a while.
Right. I mean, I'm not advocating not to do this, but there really should be some solid guardrails around it. Be
Mhm.
like, okay, well, we can extend you to the end of the year, but at that
Yeah.
point, you either have to have some residency back in the town, or you have to enroll in the town that you're
Mhm.
currently living in.
Yeah.
I know it's difficult, but I
Yeah,
mean,
The gray is
It is
really
difficult.
around what is permanent.
okay.
That's what's gray.
Mhm.
So sometimes for us, like a shelter, we know,
Well, that's a
But when
difference.
you
I'm
go
more
to
talking about
live-
family.
when you go to live with
Yeah.
friends or a family. You could be in someone's basement for a long time and they still don't consider it permanent.
Mhm. But then it's also a conversation with the family. What is
Yeah.
the best interest of the child too?
Yeah.
So,
Especially if they're coming in a long ride.
yeah.
Right? So it's just something we're watching that you may see become a line in the transportation budget in the future because. It seems like we're having this conversation more and more.
Mhm.
It covers, foster placements also.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about a van.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I emailed you that
Yeah.
the response, right? Okay. Yeah, we're gonna talk, we
Yeah,
can talk
that's a
about that.
really tricky
It is.
thing, but we need to take care of our kids, so.
Yeah.
I will mention, there is a liaison at the state that I often refer to and ask questions because it is very gray.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just talking to him the other day, so we do have that resource to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to support our students.
So program 5, health services, we didn't make any changes there, no adjustments from the beginning. Those are our nurses. Program 6, staff development, no changes from the beginning, and that's almost flat. Minor increase there. And again, that's where you also have your stipends that are coming that. And if you remember, we're in the final phase of the stipends. You'll see as part of your teacher negotiations. That side piece that was being done, it's almost done. I think we have one more meeting, we'll be good. That'll come to your regular March meeting for you to vote, and the WEA would vote on their side to ratify that. So it's a separate piece.
And that fits into these numbers.
It's factored into what we have here. Utilities, again, no change. The letter from Tammy Nuccio that came out today did say no legislation talking about any relief for electric, which is baffling to me. But that's a huge jump there. You can see that one. No changes again. Program 8, we had, we made some adjustments there on the cyber insurance. We had budgeted for 16 months, brought it down to 12, and it wasn't in 24-25, so that's why it looks like there's a huge jump, but we had paid for 16 months. So that's what's red there. That change. I mentioned Power School, the hosting already in program 9. That change of totals, and obviously program 10. The big sigh of relief and thank you for our brokers to do the work here for us. Balancing out that insurance and not having a 25% increase, because that was unreal. So those are all of the changes through all the programs. Again, I'll go back to the top where you are overall right now. It's your budget snapshot. 443.
So is it about $50,000 to get to a 3%?
Into the 3.9s, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Do we have any guidance from finance about what they're looking for?
I did not receive any letters this year. I mean, I expect that. I don't mean to sound negative about this, but I mean, I don't feel like we need that letter because there's not fluff in this. We don't put things in the budget. Like we adjusted our insurance. We could have kept our insurance flat at 0 based upon our census from January of 24, and it would have been a higher number. I don't operate that way. Our number in this year is our current census of what we have. Because that's the way we operate. It's transparent. It's what we should do. So I would expect they would put out a letter and say, please be as frugal as you can. This is what it is. Thankfully, our insurance has come down because it would have been even more painful.
Okay. So it looks like we're gonna talk about our facilities manager. What program does that fall under?
That's an 8. So you just need to really decide, I think that because there was a lot of conversation in that about that position last meeting. You gotta decide whether you're just gonna leave that alone for now and see where things go. Or if you wanna, make your own, that's up to you.
So I heard there has been some movements from the Board of Selectmen about splitting. Which should lower that cost. It won't pull half it, but it should lower it a little bit, because that's obviously that price, we're not hiring anybody, it's gonna have to be more, but it should lower it a little bit. Have you heard anything from?
I have not heard anything yet. Did it come out in meetings or just conversation?
Conversation.
Okay,
So I guess it's not, I don't think it's technically official, but it's been.
Yeah.
It seems like it was positively received, so. I can ask for more detail, but.
yeah, I can too. I mean, I think if you're looking at the salary range of 100 to 110 plus 30,000 for benefits is what you're looking at, and then divide it in half. And the 30,000 in benefits is about family insurance. That's why it's about that number.
If we did that, what would it get us to? Like 4.1?
You're pretty close. Yeah, you're pretty close. I think if we were in that 100 to 110 range, you're looking at because we budgeted 81 and 30 for insurance, so we have 110. So we're splitting, we're saving, if we're spending 70 of the 110, we'd save about 40,000 a year.
Just shy.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Alright, so. My only thought is. Keep it in now because there might be some movement on it, maybe we could always
Yep.
change it later, but. There might be some positive news and we might both be able to save money and keep it in there, so.
Keep it in the full amount, you're saying?
You have to because you don't know what they're gonna split at, but I mean, at least it keeps the line item in there.
I can follow through, Peter.
Yeah.
That would give us something to cut if we did have to cut, we can decide not to go that way.
As long as you're comfortable sharing, that's, I mean, which I think that was your initial. Proposal.
Well, I think especially at this point in time, where we don't have a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
going.
Alright, look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we'll leave it as in.
Yeah.
And continue further conversation.
Yeah.
Hopefully with the POS. Okay.
Jeff, can you
Anything
do me a
else?
favor and you got hide,
I do.
yeah,
Do that.
thank you.
Alright, I feel like we kind of already did this review. Is there anything else to add there?
No, it's really for you to determine if there's anything else, I mean, what I proposed. Things I brought up last meeting, I made the insurance change and I made the permit change, those are the two things. We talked about facilities manager. And then the other items that are on there that we talked about, like that maintenance item in the sub. Both important.
I don't wanna take away the maintenance money. It's too important.
Okay,
Is there any suggestions you have to get it down to a 3?
That's what it would,
Those would be the,
where I would go, and again, I do that from the standpoint of not impacting kids or specific classrooms, I don't have. I will share something that I shared with Marcia yesterday that I am looking at, and, please don't panic, parents. I would say 90% of districts charge for preschool. And so one of the things we're looking at is trying to determine if we charge for preschool, what we would bring in for income and what would be the offset. And so we're investigating that, now that we have the after-school program. I ran some just real rough preliminary numbers off 24 students, looking at a balance of students that would be free, students that would be reduced, and students that would pay full price. And then trying to balance it out with what other districts pay. And we ran it at the same amount of what we charge for the after-school program. And my rough numbers, it would bring in about 30,000 in the year, which covers transportation for preschool. It's something,
increasing classes or
Nope.
running the same numbers?
same numbers we have right now. There's some, the reason we are looking at legally, this is why it's a bit of a conversation, is that you're supposed to reduce the cost of special education services from the cost of tuition. In my rough math, charging $2 a day or $10 a day doesn't even come close to what we pay just two paraprofessionals and a teacher is way more than that. So my question, that we're trying to get answered is that satisfy that? Our other way around that we were trying to look into is that if we just said, if you're going to be in our preschool program, you have to pay for transportation. That doesn't impact the special ed side. We don't believe, but again, we have to find that out. It would bring in some money. Do I love it? I don't. But could it help some bring in a little bit of revenue, and is it unheard of, just like every other district is doing? I would say it's pretty commonplace. Do you know if Mansfield charges?
No,
I
they don't.
doubt it.
They don't.
And they.
Ashford? No charge for preschool, you know? Manchester,
Manchester, I don't think there's a charge.
and I bet they have grant funding for it.
Or Nyack.
They're very
Yeah,
large.
correct, yeah. So it's not unheard of. But it's something that Marcia and I have had conversations about, and it can't be something that's going to negatively impact our families from the standpoint of they can no longer do it. What I will tell you is, if you're even at full price and you're going 4 days a week and for $40, you can't go to any daycare. Granted, it's a half-day program. But,
Or even like little farmers, you can't even compare it, the price point.
no, I mean, it might be, someone could argue, well, maybe one kid is $100 for a full day program and we're only offering, a 4-hour program. But a 3-hour program.
So that would be the transportation going home for the morning and coming in for the afternoon, because otherwise they can ride.
Right,
with
so
the
my
children.
rough bill, and I just used the January bill because I was signing it, for preschool for midday run.
Mhm.
Is about $3,000, or it was about $3,000, so times 10, right? Is
For how
about,
long, 3,000
for a month,
per month, okay.
It'd still be a lottery.
all of that would still be the same. Yeah, and we could still use the same classification, again, it's really raw. You ask if there's other ways, that we're always trying to look at, if there are ways we can bring in some money, that's one of the ways. You could potentially you could look to go even more, but I'm not sure that, you know, I wouldn't wanna go more than that, you know. Cause it's about the same number of hours for the after school program and it's without transportation.
The governor, was this a priority for the governor, preschool?
So they said they were diverting some money in the budget for it. It's not real clear what that's gonna look like yet. Cause even though, I mean, I think it was $300 million is what he said. That's
That
in the
doesn't,
grand scheme of the state and thinking about a universal preschool. 300 million is a drop in the bucket.
that also sounded like they would be giving money to parents to pay for daycare,
Right.
but that might be part of it.
And even for us, like if someone was thinking, hey, we could expand our program, if we were gonna expand another program and another teacher.
It's way more than three, but.
You're looking at $100,000 for a teacher with family benefits. Add the pairs and you're at $200,000. So adding another classroom to bring in more money, if we had 50 kids that we, you know, 3s and 4s to bring into a program. It's not cost effective. I would just maintain the program the way it is to slightly offset what we have. But that's, we're looking into that and it doesn't change this drastically though.
Alright, so. Is there anything else we need to go over? We will be having our regular meeting in about a half an hour, and again, go over some of this for folks who were not with us and so on. Everybody's good to go forward? Yeah, fine, okay, then we just need a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Second.
In favor? Thank you, we are adjourning the meeting at 6:28.